The pressure is on. Spring training just 48 days away, and the Rockies have a lot of work to do before they can get to be a competitive team again. Who has the most pressure specifically on the team? We're going to break all of that down coming up next here on the DNVR Rockies podcast. What's up, everyone? Happy Friday here, live from the Toyota Lounge. It's the DNVR Rockies podcast at the DNVR bar. It is a good time. It is a good day. Friday before a huge weekend in Colorado sports. You got the Broncos, Avs, Nuggets all going on this weekend. It's been a crazy few days of Colorado sports, and so we figure we'll jump in, talk a little baseball, because why not throw baseball into the mix with all of this?
Yeah, there's not enough going on.
No,
right now.
not
Let's
enough
toss
at
some
all.
Baseball in.
Let's throw some baseball in there. Look, I get it. It is tough this time of year. We are in the thick of it. It is deep into the off season, but I think for the first time, and anytime you get over that January 1st mark, New Year 2025. You start to have this feeling of like the end is in sight. We're 48 days away from spring training, a month away from pitchers and catchers reporting. It feels like baseball's kind of around the corner. It feels good.
Yeah, it's actually, once you hit this time, I'm surprised it's on us this quickly. I'm surprised it's this soon, because you think like October, World Series may or may not be played the first couple of days of October, and then November and December are just full on NFL, college football, all this stuff. And now it's kind of like, all right, well, NFL... It's going to have 12 teams or 14 teams, after this weekend. Basketball and hockey kind of get into this lull right now. So it's like, all right, well, what's on the horizon? And spring training, it's like 48 days is like feels like nothing at this point.
It does. And I believe in the chat, Josie, sorry if I said your name wrong. It's almost Rockies Fest too. You're right. Rockies Fest not too far away. I believe it's like the 14th or something like that, 13th. It's coming up, though. I think tickets go on sale the 7th, if I remember correctly when I talked to them. So there is some Rocky stuff, to look forward to coming up here within this month. But this is the time of year for Rockies fans that I think is really challenging, because there's not a lot going on. Rockies have already kind of made their moves. We've already talked about it. There's no expectation that the Rockies do really anything worth noting from here on out. They might sign some more NRI, non-roster invite guys, but we're pretty much set with what we're going to see coming up next year. And look, 2025 is not a season where any of us are expecting to get to the World Series or the playoffs or anything like that. But if we're being critical of this team and the progress that we're expecting to make, you got to take a step forward. You've got young guys that are being developed in your program. You have to take an active step towards a better successful team in 2025. You've had 2 100-loss seasons back-to-back. You've got to get out of that 100-loss season. You've got to make progress next year. And I think for me, and how I want to start this show, is there's going to be a lot of pressure on the Rockies this upcoming year to be better, to take that step forward. And so I wanted to kind of look at, if you go down the list of our current roster that we have, I wanted to rank who the most pressure falls on in 2025 from a roster spot standpoint. So I wanted to start with the fielders, and I'm going to go through this list, and I've ranked all of these guys based on who I think has the most pressure to least pressure coming into next year in terms of helping the Rockies be successful, not just in 2025, in beyond. The number one guy that I think has the most pressure going into next year, just based off of expectations and things that we've seen from him in the past, I think in my mind is Nolan Jones. Just because of what we saw from him in 2023, with his rookie season. I mean, he was in the conversation for Rookie of the Year that year. and then how quickly he kind of fell off, injuries, all of the off the field stuff that happened. Our heart goes out to him for all of that stuff. But I think Nolan Jones, this is the biggest question mark year for his career. It could make or break his career in 2025, and we need him to be 2023 Nolan Jones.
100%. And we obviously hadn't talked about this. That's where I was going to go to. That's where my mind was going, because like you said, he had such a great 2023. And I think I've said this almost every time I've been on the show, but it rings so true. Last year, the Rockies finally started to play their younger players and not waste at bats with 40-year-old veterans that weren't part of the future. So now we know that they're on that trajectory. Now it's time for, you mentioned pressure. Like, there's absolutely zero pressure on this team, but there is an immense amount of pressure on individual players, almost every one of them.
Yeah.
And because this is a team that, yes, they're not competing this year. Do they look to compete in 26, 25, 26, 27? Yes, that's the plan. That's always the plan. But we know, like, the team this year, whether they go 81 and 81 or 71 and 92, whatever, 71 and 91, it's about how certain guys perform. And Nolan Jones is a guy that, if you would have told me at the end of last year that we were gonna have this conversation now, I'd have been like, you're crazy. He's the best player on our team.
Yeah.
He had such a rough 24. Injuries are a part of it, but even when he wasn't injured, you can't maybe you don't expect him to be the guy he was in 23, but you expect to see the flashes. And I felt like we saw almost nothing.
Yeah.
And so if Nolan Jones is going to be part of, I called it, I think I tweeted Project 26 or Project 27. That's what I think the Rockies are on. And Nolan Jones can be a part of that. But 2023 Nolan Jones is the guy that's going to be a part of it, not this one. Because if he has another season like this, and like I said, the Rockies have shown that they'll play other guys. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, he should start in left field opening day. And if he is not good through April and part of May, there is a good amount of we saw the farm rankings. The Rockies have the top 10 farm system according to certain people in the MLB circles. That means that there's guys that are ready to play and maybe pushed into playing if a guy like Nolan Jones. Because, like, if this year's already at a loss from a team perspective, you have to, and they did a good job of it last year, find out what you have in other guys. Yeah,
and that outfield is super stacked and very competitive, especially in the farm system. There's another outfielder on my list that makes the top 5 of most pressure-filled positions coming into 2025. But number 2, going down the list, number 2, it's going to be third baseman Ryan McMahon for me. Because I think, if you look at potential upside, Ryan McMahon was an all-star last year, right? Like, he made it to the all-star game, had a great first half of the year, and then unfortunately, what we've come to know is kind of Ryan McMahon style, he kind of fell off, and he had that streaky season last year to the point where I think Bud Black was even talking about, potentially benching him towards the end of the year to give him some rest so that he could kind of take some of that workload off of his shoulders. Ryan McMahon has the second most pressure on his shoulders going into 2025 because he's another guy that when he's healthy, playing well, and playing at his peak, he's an all-star. But when he's not, he's hindering your team. And I also think next year could be a career-deciding year for him. If he has another struggling season like he did towards the second half of last year, he might be up for debate going into 2026.
Yeah, and no doubt about that. And the other thing that Ryan McMahon kind of has pressure on him, I don't think from internally, like, he's obviously trying to be the best baseball player he can be, but I think organizationally there's some pressure on Ryan McMahon because he's either... the Rockies haven't been known to not make the moves we anticipated. They could have traded him last year. They didn't. But as we see sort of a shift in the way the Rockies are doing things, is it like, does the Rockies own, and they won't say this out loud. They've always said, we're keeping Ryan. They did last year, and they probably will again. But there is a chance to me that if Ryan McMahon comes out and has a great first part of the year, he's been a Rocky for multiple years. Like you said, you alluded to his second half kind of fall off and do we even play this guy right now? What's going on? Is that more pressure on the organization to turn him into two potential pieces from another organization that's looking to compete this year?
Yeah.
So I think that the pressure's on him to, if he plays well throughout an entire year and we do keep him through the trade deadline, then the pressure's on for him especially to be, are you going to be part of this? Are you going to be the vet? Because right now he kind of feels like the Rockies vet that will go, Charlie's gone. He'll be the guy that, like, is the older guy in the clubhouse if this team, like, somehow makes a run in 25 or 26.
Or at least the best of the vets.
Exactly, yeah. He's the guy that's been there, knows the Rockies organization, the fans love him. But if he has a good enough first half, is it time to pull the trigger and maybe figure out what you can get for him?
Yeah, and I worry that the Rockies, wait too long for some of these guys with their value and what's left on their contract, all of that kind of stuff. He's a big question mark for me going into 2025. Number 3, most pressure-filled positions for the Rockies going into 2025 player-wise. Drew Romo and Hunter Goodman at the catcher spot. And I put them together for this because we don't really know who the catcher's going to be in 2025. All I know is that, looking at the future of your franchise, it's not going to be Jacob Stallings. So one of these guys, at least in 2025, has to figure out if they're going to be the future catcher for the Rockies, or in the offseason of 2025, we're going to be having a lot of conversations of how do the Rockies go out and get themselves a catcher, or who in the minor leagues is going to be able to step up now to fill that role. I think Drew Romo and Hunter Goodman both have a lot of pressure on their shoulders. I think Drew probably has more pressure on his shoulders because he doesn't have the DH capabilities that I think Hunter Goodman has, and the outfielding capabilities that we've seen Goodman throw out there. But I do think one of them has to solidify themselves as the future catcher, or their time in the Rockies organization might come to an end.
Yeah, do we think, like, if I had to ask you and you had a gut scenario, do you think that both of them, either one of them is going to get enough playing time to do that, or do you think
I'm worried about that,
they're going to go full Rockies and play Stallings a ton?
I'm worried about that. So look, that's an interesting point because I don't have him listed on my tiered list, but I put Bud Black in the conversation of most pressure.
If you'd be on that.
Because I think there's a lot of pressure on Bud Black in my mind to make sure that you embrace this youth movement. Don't play Jacob Stallings every single night. And I want to see Drew Romo, Hunter Goodman, whoever you need to put behind the plate, consistently enough for them to get that time. Because if I get to the end of the year and I say, yeah, we just didn't see Drew Romo enough for me to make a decision on that, I'm going to be a little irritated about that. So I do think there's pressure on Bud Black to make the right decisions in those positions. And I think he'll do it. I think he knows, and I think everyone around the organization knows that he has to do that. But I think that's going to be a big conversation point as the season goes on.
Do we think that all three of them, with Goodman's flexibility in other places, make the opening day roster? Do you think they would keep essentially not really 3 catchers, but kind of?
I think to be completely honest with you, in some of the conversations I've had with some of the Rockies staff, I think Romo's going to start in the minors. I think it's going to be Goodman and Stallings. We also know Kyle Farmer can catch if he needed to, but I think it's going to be Goodman to start, and I think Drew Romo's going to work his way back into the roster. But that's going to be a talking point. I mean, it's something that the Rockies know they need to make a decision on whether or not Drew Romo is going to have a spot in this organization, and if he's not, salvage some value and trade him off somewhere and get something in return for him. But I think next year is a big year for Drew Romo and Hunter Goodman. Number 4 on this list, pressure position / players in 2025, Jordan Beck. He kind of falls in line with the Nolan Jones situation, but I think less of a degree. We know Jordan Beck can be a good player. We haven't seen him be the player that Nolan Jones was in 2023. There were some injuries last year, but again, this outfield is just so stacked. You can't have guys wasting a position in the outfield. Jordan Beck, to me, feels like the number 4 most pressure-filled position or pressure-filled player in 2025. And the reason I put him above Chris Bryant, and I'll wrap up this segment, at least for now, by saying Chris Bryant for me was number 5, is because none of us are really expecting anything out of Chris Bryant. Yes, there's pressure. The dude's making a ton of money. We're all going to be looking. Every time Chris Bryant steps up to the plate, we're all going to be looking at him to do something to salvage any faith we have left in him and the money he's getting paid. But we all know that contract has run its course, right? We're just salvaging a little leftover hope here. So I don't have Chris Bryant really higher than 5 on that list.
No, and that's a good point. And when you talk about pressure, the only thing that creates pressure is expectations, and our expectations are gone for Chris Bryant. You're paying him a lot of money. There's been the first year there was expectations for him. Last year it was maybe you hear Bud Black say we get a full season of KB. Then you're now it's at the point of I don't know the exact word.
Do we even want a full season of KB?
Yeah,
that's where we're at.
There's a word for this. I'm not very good with the English language, but there's a word where I'm so over expecting it that I'm just I don't care anymore.
Yeah, I get it. You're numb to it.
Jordan Beck being 4, basically both of those corner outfield spots. Now, unless there's some drop off like Nolan Jones had from 23 to 24 with 24 to 25 Bretton Doyle, we know he's just a stud.
Yeah.
And no matter what, he's so good defensively that you can, like, if he doesn't have the greatest year at the plate, he's still going to steal bases. He's still going to play great defense at center field, at Coors Field, which is an important position. But those corner outfield spots both have neither of those guys are solidified MLB stars like Charlie Blackmon was, where like you have to put him out there at least, at the end of his career, not as much, but you have to put him out there X amount of times a year. Nobody on those corner outfield spots right now has like you should start 100 plus games or 130 plus games. So there's the pressure on both of those players because maybe Nolan Jones doesn't play that well and Jordan Beck does, and then Jordan Beck moves to left field and they put somebody else to right field, or Nolan Jones just doesn't play well and then they put somebody else in left field. There's multiple ways they can go about this, but those two positions in general, the corner outfield spots, I think are the spots.
Well, and Bud Black did say that Chris Bryant, there's not a possibility. It's a reality that he's going to play a little bit in the outfield, even if it's just in a substitution role. So I want to wrap up this list, though, after this break. And I actually want to talk a little bit about some of the pitchers who have the most pressure going into 2025, because there are some question marks as we look ahead at what our pitching rotation is going to be, and some young guys that are going to have a lot of weight on their shoulders to carry this franchise for years to come. But before we do, got to give a shout out to our friends over at Shady Rays, because as you've been able to tell, if you live in Denver, we haven't had like a day of clouds in like years, it feels like. I mean, it's been sunny, beautiful, actually. And that's what we've become accustomed to here in Colorado. And whether it's the middle of January and still blindingly sunny, or the middle of July, you want to make sure you have sunglasses that are fit for the occasion. Not only do they look good, they work well, they're affordable, and Shady Rays checks all of those boxes. They are truly the best when it comes to active sportswear. Not only do they have good sporty sunglasses, you can wear them out when you're fishing, hiking, camping, playing sports, whatever it is, playing some pickup ball, at the outdoor courts, whatever your thing is. They've got really active sports sunglasses, but they also have some good looking, kind of more casual wear sunglasses. I know we have some laying around the studios that we will put on every once in a while. Spencer wears them during his golf shows, and so it's what we like to do. And Shady Rays, there's a reason they're one of the best sunglasses, rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. They also have some great deals. Exclusively for our listeners right now, Shady Rays is offering their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com. Use code DNVR for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades that, as I said, are rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Also got to give some love to our friends over at Toyota, because Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR and truly the best vehicle. I'd love to say that I'm unbiased. I'm extremely biased for Toyota. I have had Toyotas my entire life. I have a Toyota right now. I grew up driving a Toyota. My family has Toyotas. It's just the way I was born and raised, driving Toyotas, and there's a reason for that. I don't want to throw Marissa under the bus here, but she got a Jeep as her car, coming out of college. That was her big car coming out of college, and she loved it, and she still loves it. But it's had some issues, and and she's kind of said, I've heard her toss around the idea a couple times of like, I think my next car I got to go back to Toyotas, because she's also had Toyotas growing up, and so I think we're gonna get her switched over into the Toyota world as well, because there's a reason that you and I both have Toyotas. They are truly the best. You can drive them anywhere. They work in any terrain. They look great. They last forever. They're truly the best.
I'm going on like 5+ years, back-to-back Toyota trucks. No issues.
No issues. I'm at 250,000 plus miles on my Toyota, and it's still crushing it right now. My next car is definitely going to be a Toyota. Deciding between either a RAV4 or one of the trucks. Maybe a Tacoma.
The new Tacomas are sick.
The new Tacomas are sick. My mom has a new Tacoma. So.
My brother got the RAV4, and that's also sick.
The RAV4 seems more of like a family car, So I might have to bite the bullet on that one, but it's still a great car, great SUV. Any of the options that you have with Toyota are great. Visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson's Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson's Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR. All right, back here on the DNVR Rockies podcast, and we are talking about who has the most pressure on their shoulders, ranking who has the most pressure on their shoulders going into 2025. Going back 1 through 5, Nolan Jones, I think, is number 1. Number 2, Ryan McMahon. Number 3, a combo between Drew Romo and Hunter Goodman. Number 4, Jordan Beck. Number 5, Chris Bryant. I'm going to kind of rattle off 6 through 9. I think Michael Toglia sits at 6 for me, the first baseman. He's solidified himself as a starter for the Rockies, no questions there. But I think we're all expecting more from him next year. Conversations of being a Gold Glover, possible All-Star. I mean, he's a great first baseman, especially now that you got Christian Walker out of the NL West. I think there's a possibility that Michael Toglia has a breakout year next year, and there's also pressure on him to be that guy that fits in your program for years to come. He's number 6. Number 7, Brenton Doyle, and the reason I put him at number 7 is his bat. You had mentioned it a little bit earlier, Spencer. You got to have a good bat for Brenton Doyle, but his defense is solid. He's not a big question. You're still going to play him, all of that stuff, even if his bat struggles. Number 8, Ezequiel Tovar. No questions there. Number 9, Tyro Estrada. He's not your long-term solution. He's a placeholder. Hopefully he can have a good season and Rockies fans can love him and he can play good up the middle, but there's like almost no pressure for him to be, a long-term solution for the Rockies. He comes in at number 9 out of their top 9 starters for next year. But I want to talk about pitchers. And I want to actually ask you who you think the number 1, most pressure going into 2025 is, in your opinion. Who do you think has the most weight on their shoulders as a pitcher, starting or relievers, going into next season?
I think I would start with German Marquez.
Okay.
Just because 3 years ago, he was the ace. And then the injuries, like I've been watching sports my whole life and been, working for a sports company. It's my life.
Yeah.
But like, I still can't figure out with injuries where you judge people and like, where is somebody always injured, Joel Embiid, and you literally just kind of count it off, or was this a one-time thing? We talked about it on the last show we were on together. Like, so many pitchers are getting Tommy John. Just kind of happens at this point. It's a rite of passage. But can he come back? And we're talking about pressure, and pressure is based off expectations. Do I expect him to be the guy that won 16, 17 games, started in that
Took you to
game?
A playoff?
Yeah, started in that game against the Dodgers to win the division. Was great that whole year. Do I expect that? Probably not. But in order for this pitching staff to be middle of the pack, which is what this team would need to start building towards a playoff run, he has to be in the high 3s ERA. He has to try to win, he has to win 10, 11 games if possible. You don't know how many games this team's going to win, but he has to give you a shot to win 10 to 11 games. And I think the pressure's on him because although it was a very team-friendly deal at the time and still is for what his potential is, he's the guy. Yeah. He's the guy they paid to be the ace, whether or not it's not, other ace money. It's not like the Yankees or Mets throwing around that ace money, but for the Rockies, that's ace money, and he has to be at least halfway decent. And I think expectations of him start out at being healthy this year, but then for me, knowing what he has been, they go up a little bit from there. It's not just like, hey, can you stay healthy? Like, for me, Antonio Senzatella is a guy that's like, if he stays healthy the whole year and he's decent, great. Same with Kyle Freeland. Like, if Kyle Freeland's decent, like Kyle Freeland used to be what we thought could be an ace. Now we kind of know what he is. He's not high velo guy, but he's a Rocky, and so I'm always going to love him, and I can't not be biased. But like, German Marquez to me has the most pressure from the pitching staff of like, can you return? Because he's still young enough to be a guy that pitches for us in a playoff run in 26 or 27.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a safe bet. German Marquez is number 2 on my list. I put Kyle Freeland as number 1 because I think to me it feels very similar to the Ryan McMahon situation where you kind of know, yes, there's an understanding of what he is, what he isn't. However, you also know that given the limitations the Rockies have pitching-wise, you got to step up. He doesn't have the injuries that have plagued him at the extent that German Marquez and Senzatella have had, at least to the drastic nature that they've had. So I think for me, like, he's a guy that doesn't really have a lot of excuses, so there's more pressure on him to kind of be the pitching version of Ryan McMahon. That's why he's number 1. Marquez number 2 for the reasons that you noted. I have Victor Vodnik at number 3. And the reason I put a reliever at number 3 above Senzatella is because I think Vodnik gave us a little bit of a taste of what he could be, similar to Kyle Freeland, in a positive way. But I think he also showed that there was a lot of mistakes that he was making, and he's a young pitcher, so I understand that the mistakes are going to happen. The high velo that goes to the backstop, like I understand those things are going to happen. But Victor Vodnik needs to show that he's improved and grown going into next year, or it's going to turn into another, I don't know, Drew Romo situation where a guy with a ton of upside who played really well in the minors but got to the big leagues and just didn't fully pan out. I don't want to be having that conversation at the end of next season. I want Victor Vodnik to be in the same conversation that I hope Seth Halverson is in, where your 1-2 punch at the closer spot. So I think he's going to be number 3. Number 4, Senzatella. 5 was Feltner, because I think Feltner, you just have to have this guy that is going to step up and pitch good. We saw him pitch really well at the end of last year, but I don't know if there's a ton of pressure. I mean, obviously there's pressure going into every year, but I don't know if there's a ton of pressure for him, compared to some of these other guys. I like, the idea, that J-Law has some pressure because he had a down year in 24. The Rockies already showed that they're willing to move on from J-Law. So I agree. There could be some pressure for J-Law just to keep his job. Just to keep his job with the Rockies.
I want him to be good so bad.
I know.
The Rockies bullpen, whether very young, very inexperienced, has some electric arms. You talked about Vodnik. You talked about Halverson. Lawrence has one of the best, if not the best, sweepers, if you call them now, in the game. Like they have some electric arms with some electric stuff in the bullpen, and that's where we talked about this on the pod a couple times ago, but that's where the Rockies really lost a lot of their games. 5th, 6th, 7th inning, bullpen gives up a lead. Now, not saying this is a world-beating team, but those guys taking the next step and showing that they can be part of Project 26 shows you that will turn into more wins. If they play the same level of baseball that they played last year, they'd win 5 to 10 more games just based on those middle guys or those relievers or those closers, whether it's Vodnik, whether it's Halverson, whoever, being that the players that we hope they can be. That those, like, every player obviously directly turns into wins, hence the WAR, and we'll talk about that later. But the Rockies bullpen specifically has caused a lot of losses in the past. And so those guys...
historic number, actually, last year.
Correct.
Yeah.
So those guys being better can directly affect, we talked about there's not a lot of team pressure, but in order for them to take a step as individuals and as a team, they need to win more games.
Yeah.
John Madden over here. But those guys directly affect it. Like, if Brenton Doyle hits 350 and 25 bombs and 100 plus RBIs, that affects winning some games, but the bullpen had a direct negative effect on the team last year.
And we know how important pitching is in baseball. I mean, it's the number one most. You get to the playoffs and it's on display for the whole world. Teams with the best pitching win. I want to comment on Cowboy 5-0's last Toyota chat.
Yes, I was hoping we'd get
Trevor
to that.
Bauer to the Rockies. Here's the thing, and I don't want to dive too deep into this. It's an interesting topic, but I think Trevor Bauer is a desperation only situation for the Rockies. Does he have a lot of high upside? Yes. But you have to also look at the PR for the Rockies. There is a back end of this that if the Rockies were to sign Trevor Bauer, despite all the legal issues and all of this stuff that's happened on the back end with Trevor Bauer, the Rockies do not have a great PR. Their fan base is frustrated right now, right? Understandably so. People are unhappy with the Rockies because of the lack of moves, the losses that you've had over the course of decades. It feels like if the Rockies were in a position where there was a possibility that they could get to the playoffs and be competitive, I think it would be a different conversation where you'd say, we're just desperate. We need to get there. We need to win. We bring in a guy like Trevor Bauer, league minimum, and we just make it work. It's a development year for the Rockies. I just don't see a world in which they need the bad PR mixed with the fact that he's not going to bring you to the playoffs by himself. So it's an interesting point, and I understand it. Like, I get it. There is this conversation of like, you could get him for super cheap, all that kind of stuff, but
you're being good cop. I'm going to be bad cop and flip it for a second. The Rockies should absolutely sign Trevor Bauer because like you talked about, their PR is not great. Now, I'm talking about the baseball player, Trevor Bauer. I don't care, condone, whatever.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff there.
Yes, there's a lot to unpack, which we're not going to do. The baseball player that is Trevor Bauer, I think, is almost a perfect fit for the Rockies because, everyone's pissed off about them not making moves. That's making a move for a future or a past Cy Young vote getting pitcher. Number 2, he has that perfect FU attitude to come pitch at Coors Field and be electric. Like the Rockies signed, I'm going to butcher his name, Jeffrey Yan or whatever.
Jeffrey Yan. You're close.
So like electric.
Yeah.
Who cares?
I was pumped. I'm so pumped.
So Trevor Bauer, I think somewhat brings, like, I bet he brings that, like, he's Cal Quantrill on steroids, where like he said the things he said to that Red Sox catcher last year. Like Trevor Bauer being here, I think is a great fit because no one believes the Rockies can be good. And that's fair.
Yeah.
But he has his own career to try to resurrect. And like coming to the Rockies, for him, it'd be like, yeah, like I'm going to this bad team. I'm still a good pitcher. I can still fire up this crowd. Like the Rockies still have good crowds, still have good people show up. Like I think he would be the perfect player to sign here. Just from that perspective of like, hey, I could help. If he's good, he would definitely help. And he makes the team. He has that FU attitude. I love that attitude.
I agree with that. I just think, first of all, realistically, the Rockies are way too family friendly of a team to ever sign Trevor Bauer. Let's be realistic. Like they're just not going to take that PR. Like for whatever it is, have your opinions on either side. They're not going to take the PR. But I agree with the baseball side. The business side of it does make sense. But yeah, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen, especially given that they're not in that position, right now to even make it to the playoffs. Look, got to take a break. After the break, though, we're going to talk about something a little depressing. Which, I mean, I guess is a lot of stuff for the Rockies, but we're gonna break it down a little bit, maybe get a little heated for a moment. I don't know. It's Friday. We're gonna try to keep things as light as possible, but we got an interesting segment coming up after the break. But before we do, got to give a shout out to our friends over at Coors Light. It's Friday, and what goes perfectly with Friday in the Mile High City? Coors Light. I mean, we don't get Rockies games to go to right now because it's the middle of winter, but even though it's the middle of winter, Coors Light still is great. I actually went out for New Year's Eve, went out with some friends, went to some bars downtown, and I actually had a Coors Light, a couple Coors Lights, and it was great. I mean, it goes well anywhere you are, and it's Friday, so I'm going to be going downstairs, having some Coors Lights after the show. It's going to be a good time, and there's a reason Coors Light is our official beer, because it's just the best it's just the best. It's the best light beer. I've been drinking Coors Light since a long time. We'll say that.
Since I was 21.
Yeah, since I was 21. I mean, I grew up in Washington. We had some other really good light beers in Washington too, but Coors Light still is undefeated in my mind. So make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Embrace that chill mindset. Crack open an ice cold Coors Light, and also get Coors Light delivered straight to your door by going to Instant Cart at CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company in Golden, Colorado. Also got to give a shout out to our friends over at Bet365. We do not do ordinary. Every single sport is epic. I said it to start the show. This is a great weekend for Colorado sports. Avs, Nuggets, Broncos, all playing. And if you saw that Avs game last night, then hopefully that momentum carries you into the remainder of the weekend for Colorado sports. And there's some great bets getting tossed around out there. The Chiefs and Broncos is an interesting one for me. And you and I were talking about this before because I'm a little nervous about the Broncos. So maybe there's a world in which we lighten the stress a little bit, put some safe bets out there. I'm
considering taking out a mortgage.
Yeah, sure. Don't do what Spencer's doing unless you're very confident in your bet. But
it says never ordinary. That's not an ordinary thing to do.
It's not an ordinary bet at all.
I might be single after the weekend's over. But
hey, Kylie's working again. She's at back. She's teaching. So she's doing good. You guys are doing great. You're
talking me into this.
I know. I think that's a good idea. You know what? I'm feeling confident about our sports teams though going into this weekend. Broncos have a lot looking up for them. But whatever sport you're interested in betting in, Bet365 has some great codes, some great discounts. Use the code DNVR365. You can deposit $10, choose between either a bet and get offer by placing a bet of $5 or more and getting $150 in bonus bets, or a first bet safety net offer by placing a bet of up to $1,000. If your qualifying bet loses, you receive a match refund and bonus bets. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, back here on the DNVR Rockies podcast, Christian Saez, Spencer Smith, hanging out with you guys on this Friday afternoon. I want to bring up a topic here. I saw this posted couple days ago. Maybe a little outdated. I think it was at the beginning of the week, but I haven't had the chance to talk about it yet. But before we talk about this, I want to segue into this topic by kind of taking a look at what some of the other teams in the NL West have done. You know, we're at the point in the offseason where, yeah, there are still some moves that are going to be made, especially by some of the bigger teams. But we have a pretty good picture of what some of the teams have done so far. So if you go down the NL West and you start to kind of get a picture in your head of what these teams have done, what's the competition that the Rockies are going to face this year, it's not great. I'll say that to start. But let's start with the Dodgers. Dodgers lost Walker Buehler. But you re-signed Blake Trinan, Michael Conforto, Teoscar Hernandez, and you got Blake Snell from the Giants. That's a pretty good offseason so far. I mean, you didn't really lose any huge pieces besides Walker Buehler, and you've pretty much just padded all of your superstars, okay? Good stuff from the Dodgers. Diamondbacks, you lost Christian Walker and Jock Peterson, but you got Corbin Burns. That was a shocker for a lot of us. Corbin Burns is going to be huge. You also got Josh Naylor. Diamondbacks are feeling good. If you stop the offseason right now, you went into 2025, Diamondbacks are feeling all right. Giants, yeah, you lost Blake Snell. You got Willy Adames. Kind of evens itself out in a way. I'd put a little more into Blake Snell, but Willy Adames is good. He's going to be a good player for you. Giants are feeling good. They're feeling competitive. And I'll even say that the Rockies, out of all the NL West teams, have not had the worst offseason across all of NL West teams. You lost Blackmon, you lost Rogers and Quantrill, but you gained Tyro Estrada, Kyle Farmer, and Jimmy Herget. Nothing crazy, but you made some moves. You kind of stuck with the plan. Rockies are in business for what we were expecting them to do. The big one for me that kind of stands out is the Padres. You lost Kyle Higashioka, and you haven't done anything. There's no acquisitions. You've got a ton of free agents just floating around. Haven't re-signed Profar. There's a lot of question marks on the Padres end. So they're kind of the worst in the NL West, at least from the offseason stuff. But so I wanted to paint that picture as a segue into this next topic, because I don't know if you guys saw this on Twitter, but Brooksgate posted a graphic totaling WAR accumulated by each team's draft picks across the last 10 years. You know the graphic I'm talking about?
Yes, sir.
We put it up here on the screen for you. This is the graphic. If you see there, all the way down at the bottom, the Rockies have only had 35 draft picks reach Major League Baseball for a accumulated WAR of 9.8. And for comparison, the Astros WAR is 110.4. So the reason I connect that to this whole, what have the other teams done in the offseason is the Rockies' identity is just, I think, what pisses a lot of fans off. Because you don't make big moves in the offseason. And to get specific, over the last 6 seasons, the Rockies have only signed one free agent to a multi-year contract. That was Chris Bryant. And that was credit to Patrick Lyons for posting that. The Rockies have only signed one free agent to a multi-year contract over the last 6 seasons, which means that you don't really make any big splashes in the offseason. So that in turn should mean that you're a team that needs to draft and develop. But what this graphic shows me is that the Rockies are the worst in Major League Baseball over the last 10 years at drafting and developing players. That's the most bleak-looking thing I've ever seen when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. It made me laugh when I saw that, because I'm like, man, that sucks. Like, that's just so hard to come and sell to you here on a Rockies podcast.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm always silver lining guy. Does that graphic, do we think it means, is Nolan Arenado's career WAR in that? Or is it only when he played for the Rockies? You don't have to know necessarily, but I'm just curious as to the fact of, there's no way to sugarcoat what that shows.
Yeah.
But the Rockies have had a problem with drafting and developing the right players. I remember when John Gray got drafted, made the MLB, now has made a good career for himself, but then they let him go. There's guys that they have drafted and developed, and then they let them go. And it is frustrating as a Rockies fan, because like you said, if they're not going to sign free agents, then you have to draft and develop.
Yeah.
And it seems like the Dodgers, as much as I hate glazing them, they not only sign all the big free agents, get the Shohei Ohtanis, but every year we play them, because I'm not too in tune with their farm system, there's guys like Teoscar Hernandez or guys that come up and play, especially against the Rockies, and I'm like, this is just a AAA guy all year, and he's crushing us.
They have a top 10 farm system still.
Yeah, and
which is crazy to me.
I don't get how they do it.
Yeah, best team in baseball still has a top 10 farm system. The Rockies have a top 10 farm system, and that's all we're putting our hopes on. And that's, I think, where it frustrates me. Because the Rockies are a team that is literally putting all of our eggs in one basket and saying the future of our franchise rests on our ability to draft and develop players, get them ready to play and to play well at the major league level. And from what this graphic shows, and again, you're just looking at WAR, wins above replacement, okay? But you're the worst team in baseball at doing this over the last 10 years. And again, we're looking at in a funnel here. We're looking at a very specific metric. But WAR is a big metric when it comes to how players are built, how successful they are. I mean, when you're building contracts for players, this is all really important stuff. And so that's where I think this just frustrates me is, you have to have an identity. If you're not going to be the team that excels at drafting and developing, then go out and sign your asses off during the offseason. Bring me 5 new players. I want to see a new roster coming into 2025 or 26 or whatever year it is. And if you're not going to do that, then that needs to be better. And again, we go back to this whole business thing, and I think it's why so many people have this narrative of sell the team, frustrated with team ownership, with team management, because the business side doesn't make sense. If you go to a board of executives, a board of directors, and try to sell this to them and say, here, look what we have to show over the last 10 years. We've only signed one guy to a multi-year contract, one free agent to a multi-year contract, and it hasn't worked out. And our draft picks have turned out to be the least successful in all baseball. Like, how are we still selling that? How are we still moving forward with that?
I think going from that graphic to the current farm system graphic is the sell.
That's the only way you do.
Selling something that's worth $1 for $10, and it's a tough sell, but that's the sell that they have. And I think the last at least 2 years, seeing younger guys take prominent roles in the team, I think is huge for the organization.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying huge for an ant is different than huge for an elephant. Like the Rockies are an ant in the MLB. So huge for them is not as big as like the Dodgers not signing anyone and saying, they have all the goodwill in the world. The Rockies do not. But I think at least in my, very biased opinion, the last 2 years have shown flashes of the Nolan Jones, the Brenton Doyles, the Tovars, the, Michael Tolias, the guys that you think they said were coming and were going to be good, and now they are at least showing it, and they're in the MLB.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only sell. I mean, it's a small one, but it is.
And you're right. And we, I hate to be the people that take the little victories, but like we do. That's what we have. Like, right? Like I'm the type of guy that goes out and will stand on a mountain and say, I would rather, if we're going to be a losing team, I'd rather be a losing team that fills a stadium every single game than be a losing team that has, 10,000 fans at every game. Like, we take the little victories as they come. It just kind of gets my blood boiling when I see that, because it's like it's just frustrating that there isn't that identity. Now, again, let's shift our focus towards the future, because I would argue that if I was sitting here with Dick Momfort, Bill Schmidt, any of the player development guys, like, they would all say, hey, look, the reason we're selling this is because we're looking to the future. We're looking at the Chase Dolanders, the Charlie Condons, the number 4 draft pick in 2026. Like, that's the future of your franchise. All I'm saying is be aware that you have not been good at that for the last 10 years. So don't kind of stick with the usual programming. Don't kind of keep trying to do the same stuff. Make some adjustments, right? Whatever we've been doing for the last 10 years has not worked. So make some adjustments in the draft and development process that can allow us to be successful in 2027, 2028, and beyond. That's all I'm going to get in our little rant for the day. Yeah, we're cutting it off there. I can go down this. I can get way too worked up.
We're going to shut the road.
We're
road
shutting
closed.
things down right there. I'm going to take our last break. After the break, though, I saw an interesting tweet pop up. They actually tagged us. This person tagged us. They asked AI what the Rockies need to do to win a World Series in 2025. And this is what AI said the Rockies need to do to win a World Series in 2025. We'll get to it after the break. Before that, though, got to give some love to our friends over at Breck Distillery. Breckenridge Bourbon Whiskey is the official bourbon and vodka, an underrated, and sometimes overlooked side of Breck Distillery is their vodka, still a premium vodka, but is the official bourbon and vodka of the Denver Broncos, are almost playoffs Denver Broncos. We've got our last tailgate of the year coming up. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. Last tailgate of the year coming up, though, in just a couple days. And you know that Breck Distillery is going to make an appearance at that tailgate. You organize all of these tailgates. I know you're out there getting the shot skis, getting the Breck Distillery, making sure that everyone has a taste of these award-winning spirits. There's a reason that, people go through Breck Distillery a lot when that's provided to them out at those tailgates.
Breck Distillery will be making an appearance in my tummy on Sunday because it's going to be cold. Yes. I'm going to need, I'm soft. I'm so soft. Last night we left the Avs game. I was freezing.
Congrats on
my
being
brother
there, by the way.
And his girlfriend are like, I'm sweating, and I don't get it. So I'm soft. I need the whiskey. I could have 4 coats on. I'm still going to be cold. Whiskey's the only other thing, and it's always Breck Distillery, especially from the tailgate. It's definitely going to be my drink of choice on Sunday.
Yeah, I could hear you saying, I'm soft, and I could see Marissa walking around the corner just laughing as you were saying that.
Yeah, I'm going to be freezing my ass off on Sunday.
Yeah, it's going to be cold.
Breck Distillery is going to help that.
They're going to help you. They're going to help with that. But even if you're not at a Broncos game, it's winter. It's my favorite time of year to drink bourbon. And Breck Distillery, their award-winning spirits, they really hit the spot. So enter to win 2 tickets to Denver Broncos games in the Breckenridge Bourbon Whiskey Suite. Share how you celebrate Broncos games by posting your photos to social media using hashtag Broncos Bourbon. Also use code DNVR at checkout for free shipping on all orders over $99. Learn more at breckdistillery.com. Well, look, we were just talking about it. We've got some huge events coming up, and the biggest one being the upcoming tailgate. Sunday, 11 a.m. It's the biggest game of the year. I mean, it's a playoff game, really. It's the first playoff game, really, like in our hearts at least, that the Broncos have played in forever. And we are going to be getting the party going at 11 a.m. You do not want to miss out. Not only will there be great pregame shows, live shows from the tailgate, music, games, Breck Distillery, it's going to be a great time. Drinks, I mean, you were even saying it's going to be chilly, so we might not even be, putting ice out for the beers. We might just be putting the beers out.
Exactly. They can just, that is the only good part about the cold time of year is you can just leave your handles of Breck Distillery or your Coors Lights in the garage. You don't even have to bring them inside.
I remember college. I remember in college when it would get so cold that you didn't need, I would go to the grocery store and get a 6-pack or something like that, and I'd have it in the back of my car, and it'd be there for days, and it's still frozen by the time I'd get there. Yeah. So it's cold or not, it's still going to be a great time. 11 a.m. Sunday. Head to thednvr.com/events for more details on all of our events coming up. All right, welcome back here to the DNVR Rockies podcast. Christian Saez, Spencer Smith, talking a little bit about an off-season topic that never gets thrown out there, but I thought was a fun little experiment that someone did. Shout out to Mikey Westside on Twitter. He asked AI what the Rockies need to do to win a World Series in 2025, and this is what AI said. Now, it's not that crazy, and I'm not going to read through everything because it was this is a 3-page report on every single move. Maybe that's what the Rockies need to do. Maybe we need them to just Bill Schmidt just types into AI
from his
what
iPad.
Moves should I make?
Yes.
and we just roll with that.
Bill Schmidt and Dick Monfort from their iPad through Chat GPT turns the Rockies into the World Series champions.
I wouldn't be against it. AI says, to achieve a World Series win in 2025, the Colorado Rockies would need to strategically focus on several key areas given their current roster, past performance, and the challenges posed by their home ballpark, Coors Field. Here are the main components of a potentially winning formula.
Even AI knows about Coors Field. That's when it's bad. That's when it's really bad.
It does. And there's a whole section on what they need to do to overcome Coors Field.
Oh my God.
I'm just going to read the bullet points. There are breakdowns within each of these bullet points. Bullet point number 1. Pitching development and acquisition. It goes on by saying stabilize the rotation. Talking about the Rockies have historically struggled with starting pitching, particularly at the high altitude of Coors Field. Developing young pitchers like Dollander and Sullivan could be crucial, as mentioned in posts on X and blah blah blah. They also talked about some of the relievers with their strong fastballs. Okay, so we're good. That's off to a good start. We're all in agreement there. Next bullet point: veteran presence. Bringing in or retaining veteran pitchers who have experience or success at Coors Field can help. Names like German Marquez, if he recovers well from injuries, could be pivotal, as suggested by Webb Reports. I'm feeling like they should just do this podcast. I mean, should we just have AI do our show for us? Because this is pretty good.
We're verging
analysis.
on that, I think, in general, for all
for all of our baseball podcasts.
Just everything's going to be AI.
I'm not against it. All right, moving down the list. Offensive power and speed. Harness young talent. Prospects like Zach Veen could provide a significant boost if they develop as hoped. His potential debut could energize the lineup with speed and power. Okay, so AI is... They're putting a lot of weight on Zach Veen. Now, I didn't have Zach Veen on my pressure players to start the show because you have guys like Nolan Jones and Jordan Beck who I think are going to get the first crack at it. But I think that's a good point. Zach Veen, I mean, we look at the prospects, guys that, are stacking up our farm system, a top 10 farm system in Major League Baseball. Zach Veen's going to be on that list. Moving down that bullet points, consistent performance from stars. Players like Ryan McMahon, Ezekiel Tovar, and Brenton Doyle need to continue to improve upon their performances. Tovar, in particular, has been highlighted as a potential MVP candidate, which would be a game changer for the team. Let's pause for a moment. If Ezekiel Tovar was even in the conversation for an MVP candidacy in 2025, what does the conversation look like for us? Are we like on cloud nine if Ezekiel Tovar is a MVP candidate in 2025?
Oh, 100%. And actually, I'm going to see if I can find this tweet really quick. I normally don't engage with people that talk shit about the Rockies because
there's so many of them.
Yeah, there's so many of them and it would take me a long
we
time.
Love you. We love you no matter what.
But this guy, the other day, he tweeted about, he did his own tier making. And I actually kind of want to talk about this, and this is a perfect segue to just talk about Tovar. He did his own tiers.
Oh, I saw this.
Dude, I was so pissed off.
Show me what you were thinking, because it might have been like some rage bait.
It kind of had to be.
Because was Tovar in the
He was. Oh yeah, here we go. 2025 shortstop list. So elite, they had Bobby Witt Jr.
Sure.
Blah blah blah. And bench, they had Ezekiel Tovar just above the two Javi Baez.
Yes, yes.
Which, don't get me wrong,
is
he the best shortstop in the game? No. Would we love him to be? Yes. But this was just so shit. Like this is so disrespectful to the Rockies, because as a Rockies franchise, and you call them what they are, you talk about them, you know about them. Yes, they're not the best franchise in the MLB. They're not even close. They may be the worst. But you have to respect the players on the team for what they are.
Yeah.
The guy won a Gold Glove.
One of the best fielders statistically in all baseball.
Exactly. He was a top 3-4 bat at shortstop in the National League. Don't give me this bench shit. And I hate seeing this because I get I'm worked up right now. I got worked up. But don't do this to us. Yes, our team sucks. They've lost 100 games 2 years in a row, but that doesn't mean every player on our team sucks.
Yeah, no, not at all. I think next year Brenton Doyle is going to be the guy that shows all of baseball who he is. But I do think that was a little rage baity from them, because I was looking through the comments, because I had the same reaction than you.
I was
drafting up a tweet.
I was so mad.
Just I was about to lose it, and then I looked through the comments, and they were making jokes with people and stuff. So I think they were messing with us. But yeah, that kind of stuff, don't get us excited here. AI also said for the Rockies, bullpen reinforcement, depth and consistency. The Rockies need a reliable bullpen to close games. That involves both developing young arms and potentially adding experienced relievers who can handle the late innings effectively. Important note there, late innings effectively. We say it time and time again. The Rockies need those late inning relievers. Yeah, middle relievers are great. Late innings. I need someone who in the 7th inning on is going to shut down games. If you can have a lead going into the 7th, 8th, 9th inning, I do not want to feel concerned about a guy who's going to throw a ball to the backstop, plunk a guy, and then give up a 3-run home run to lose the game. I don't want to be worried about that stuff. So I'm with you there, AI, on that one. Strategic team management. This is an interesting one. Smart trades and free agency. The Rockies might need to make strategic moves in the trade market or free agency to fill gaps, particularly in pitching or power hitting. Reducing payroll might limit big signings, but clever trades could manage the issue. Can I make a hot take here? I think the Rockies have actually done well this offseason. I think they've made, based on this metric alone, they're not going to make a big signing. We all knew that. They're not signing Corbin Burns for $300 million.
Yeah, you grade them on a curve.
Yes. They made some clever trades or signings. Hefrian, Tyro Estrada, guys with big upside, the Jimmy Herget. Like, these are good moves that the Rockies have made. Kyle Farmer's a little interesting to me, but I guess I get it. But moves that the Rockies have made to be better next year and to fit the game plan. I think the Rockies have had a good offseason. Better than the Padres, at least.
Yeah, they've had for the Rockies, a great offseason. Like, they got a few guys. They replaced, there was obviously a clear need at second base with not re-signing Brendan Rodgers, who, in all fairness, like, I love Brendan Rodgers. People say I look like Brendan Rodgers when I had my long hair, beard.
I could see it.
He's way better looking than I am. I'll just say that. I kind of had a man crush on Brendan Rodgers, but was he the player that they drafted 3rd overall or 7th or whatever he was overall? No. And so they cut ties, and maybe they cut ties too late and could have traded him 2 years ago, but we could say that about a lot of players. If you get past that point of it, they let him go, and they got, Tyro Estrada. If you just look at his numbers at Coors Field, he's Shohei Ohtani.
Dude's a stud.
Yeah, so, I mean, you never know.
MVP candidate Tyro Estrada, exactly. 2026.
So they replaced what they needed to replace directly. You're hoping for guys to come back from injury. You're hoping for... And there's a lot of hope, but that's what sports is about. Every year you hope to win the World Series or the Super Bowl or the national title, whatever. There's a lot of hope out there, but there's some signs that Nolan Jones can return to 2023 form. They can get growth out of these young players. Like, they're not rolling out this roster of 40-year-olds and being like, yeah, we just don't care. We paid them all league minimum.
Yeah.
We're just going to lose 100-plus games again and sell out and sell the rooftop out.
And
Like, they are trying.
And I feel better about the moves they've been making now. Instead of them doing like what the A's are doing, where they're just kind of throwing money at people, just being like, we just need to hit this payroll, so like we're just gonna throw money at you. I feel like this is more calculated, so I'll take that. Hold on, pause for a moment. We might have a little breaking news in the baseball world. I just saw a tweet pop up. Get out of here. The Dodgers sign. I have a hard time pronouncing his name. Haesung Kim, to a reported 3-year, $12.5 guaranteed deal. He could make up to $22 million in performance bonuses. And the Dodgers also hold 2 options worth $9.5 million for 2028-29. Second baseman utility Haesung Kim reportedly signing with the Dodgers. Cool.
Wait, so this is not...
Cool.
This is the guy that was pitching in the KBO.
Yes, correct.
This
not Haesung Kim
from the Padres, right?
Not from the Padres.
Okay,
yes,
I was like, oh.
He's playing in the KBO.
Okay.
A lot of upside, played really well. Again, KBO numbers are a little bit skewed, but classic Dodgers. At least it wasn't Roki Sasaki.
Where's he going to sign?
Probably the Cubs. I think he's going to the Cubs.
For our CHGO people, I will enjoy that.
And just for Cody Del Mendo to
stop eating
sushi every single day. Shout out to him. He's been true to the form on that one. All right, I got to wrap up this last segment. AI, the key to the Rockies winning a World Series in 2025. Leadership and coaching, adapting to Coors Field's unique conditions, competitive division play are the remaining factors. And then they have, in summary, a mix of developing young talent, strategic acquisitions, health management, and leveraging their home field's unique attributes could set the Rockies on a path to contend for a 2025 World Series. However, given their current odds and historical performance, this would require an exceptional season from nearly every aspect of the team. One can have hope.
One can have hope for an exceptional season from every aspect of the team.
I love it.
We'll be happy if we get exceptional season from 1/3 of the team.
Give me Chase Dollander next year. Give me Chase Dollander having an exceptional year in 2025, and I am good. That will carry me into 2026. Chase Dollander, the next Paul Skeens. Sign it, record it, send us into 2025 on that note. First show of 2025 in the books. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Christian Saez, Big Drive Spence on the show. We'll see you guys next time. Have a good weekend, everyone.
We all silly like the mayor.